right, welcome back to another episode of the Slide In Pod, or whatever we're going to decide to name it eventually.
Kelly fidgets too much.
Kelly fidgets too much and has a squeaky chair.
I'm a meth guy. Puts his hands in his face. Yeah.
It's a little wordy, but I like it. It is about 8 degrees outside. It's blowing like a son of a gun.
Fuzziness.
Yeah, it's cold, so it's good to be inside. I went fishing yesterday. It was fun. It was cold. Got a few, but
I did not.
It's definitely desk season. So happy to be in here, and we've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about today. First thing, what you been up to? What you been doing?
I've been building stalls for my horses in the new barn.
And that's outside?
Inside the barn. So it's not too bad.
All right. Well,
but it is a little howly. Other than that, not much.
sounds like a good winter.
Yes, I've been organizing my flies at the house, trying to get, I hate clutter. So I'm throwing a lot of stuff away.
How often do you organize your flies?
In the box or just those? I mean, I have so many. I organize them before every trip, but the ones I carry, but it's all my ancillary stuff, I have storage bins and then I put them into the boxes, but then I got to look at them on the wall and it's like, oh shit, there's stuff over there that's bugging me. It's kind of like this stuff, you know?
I'll have to go back and see if I can find this photo, but I think I have a photo of you. I walked into your house one day and you've got hundreds of those MFC boxes open with streamers in them.
Not hundreds, but 40. Yes.
A lot. And, you know, all over your kitchen table, all over your island and everything. And
I have that picture. I put it on my phone to remind myself that you should do this more often. So this didn't, and then it's just a giant culling thing, right? And because whatever reason, you put flies back in a box that are done, they're done. And then I go through and cull them, and I get that particular one, that you're talking about, I think I ended up with, I had 3 piles, and each pile had about 100 flies in it. Well, no, it was 100 total, about like 115 or 20. But I had 3 piles. Okay, maybe I throw away, I'm not really, for sure this one's going, right?
Yep.
And I still had trouble throwing the things in the dumpster. But, they're shot, right? They're shot. And so, but then it's just always trying to, all my equipment, putting it in a place, and I've got a big garage. It's heat. I just, between season, you go in and you throw stuff down, and you're going to fix it later. And then you go fishing, and then you're going to fix it later, and you don't. So that's going on.
I'm the poster child for that. When I go through my flies, I organize them into, I'm going to fish these tomorrow. I might fish these tomorrow. I'm not going to fish these, but I want to keep them. I should probably give these flies to friends, and then these ones are going in the dumpster.
It's not as hard for me to throw away store-bought ones. It's hard for me to throw away my own.
Yeah.
Right. And I have a whole box of bunkers. The TNA bunker is still one of my, especially that big one. And the commercial ones, the eyes would fall off. And I had, I don't know, probably, but it's particularly on the white. The white I use, when I would be down there, I would use the brown and the olive and white one. And, they bash that head and you'd lose an eye. And I think I had like 30 of them that I was going to put the eyes back on. I'm thinking, are you shitting me? It's like saving a bent nail. Throw the thing away and start over. It's like, be done with this piece of shit. And so but it's more like, when we did the $1,000, this is how weird things just goes off into space. When we did the original thing about how much I like the Traverse rod.
Yep. That's the Echo kit for
the Echo kit rod. And I fished it exclusively for 3 years. Who knows what this year's going to bring. And the whole point of that was I couldn't find a damn rod tube to put a 4-piece to pack in onto my horse. And so I couldn't find a rod tube. And I got pissed off, and I walked in here and took a brand new rod reline kit. Thank God I did, because I'd never fished one. And only because my disorganization, which is not very disorganized, but I could not find, and I probably have 30 of those someplace, or I threw them all away. I don't know. And that's, so the organization thing for me is like, I have to do that, right? I have to go in there. I like to do it I'd like to do it weekly, but it tends to be monthly. But that's how the whole thing went down, about the whole, kit rod that I was fishing, and how the whole $1,000 rod thing came up. And by the way, what's your sister's name?
Riley.
Riley? I'm sorry, I can't fix the squeaky chair. Promise, I'm gonna go buy a new one tomorrow.
We're getting a new chair.
I got shims underneath this thing so I don't fall over, but I'm trying not to do this all day. Okay, I watched one of these videos, I don't watch very many, and I'm like, dude, are you gonna pick your nose? What's next? I'm sitting here going, And I just noticed, I looked up at the lights. You said, don't look up at the lights.
Kelly tries not to read the comments. I have to read the comments. They're my job. So I try to pass along the tidbits.
I read the last one, all of them. There were 72 when I looked. And I read all of them. I did. And it was, I found a lot, and we didn't have too many of the hater people. Those people don't bother me at all. I kind of look for them, right?
Yeah, it's fun. I like seeing it. It's
like,
entertaining.
What a pissed life you must have if you, I can't imagine commenting on anything to anyone. Just, shut your mouth. But I find them now kind of fun. But there weren't very many.
No.
But there were some new names, too, that were pretty fun. But I don't know. I had nothing better to do, I suppose.
I do want to go back real quick to that Traverse kit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make this a quick shit you should buy from us. The Sispafoo, I think is the name we came up with. Kelly came in and told the story, what he just said, right? Grabbed this rod, took it up there, set it up, started casting it, and actually loved it. And I was kind of like, bullshit, Mm-hmm. And then when I was down at the North Slide, when we'd have slow periods, I'd set up that Traverse kit rod and take it out front and cast it. It's a little bit heavier than some of the $1,000 rods out there. Who cares? Who cares that it's a little bit heavier?
Go work out more.
It casts so well.
I would like to put it on a tester.
I think it is. It's slightly heavier, but
it'll be stronger.
Exactly. If you're casting properly, if you're doing that all day, it might hurt you. But if you're keeping your hand in tight, I loved it. A little slower action.
Exactly. How
super
rods are
affordable.
supposed to be.
Check it out. Slidein.com. All right, that's our ad for the day.
And not only that, but when Brian was here and he broke his rod, I told him, take the rod that's on my boat. And he came in, he goes, it's a freaking kit rod. And I said, take it. And he came back, and I says, there it is. It's the rod. Johnny's waiting on you to get your ass in the boat. And he took it and had no idea, because I hadn't done the videos or any of that stuff. And he came back, he goes, God, I love that rod. So unsolicited, was pissed that I made him take a kit rod because he broke one of his $1,000 rods. And yeah, it's just, good sticks are good sticks no matter what it's $1,000, it's $20, it doesn't matter. It's all freaking ego driven.
Well, and I'd say,
do you like it?
A good stick for $270 with a reel and line, pretty cool.
Which I'm still fishing the line.
Yeah,
today on it. I don't know what the hell it is. But
bag line, something.
It's a bag line, yeah, it had to be done. But, there's a lot of companies like that. Cortland was like, when Cortland did that, they never really jacked their prices way up. And people started thinking, well, there must be something wrong with them.
Right.
And just like with the kit, people think, well, there's got to be something wrong with it. There's no way you could sell this rod. The rod, they're what you like. It's what you like.
It's what you like. The 444 Peach is a perfect example, right?
Well, let's just not forget one thing. At the grand opening, when we had a world champion caster here trying to cast, and you went out and picked that rod up and beat his best cast with 2 false casts, with a kit rod, with the line that comes with it, not the line designed by Bruce Richards to go 1,000, nothing. Picked it up and did a two casts and dropped 106 or something, whatever it was. It's ridiculous.
One of my finest moments. They're few and far between.
you'll never do it again.
No, I won't.
So,
All right, well, let's
new
get
cups,
into...
by the way.
Oh,
You
yeah.
see the new cups we got?
Are those going to be online at some point?
Probably already are. I don't
All
know.
right, we'll talk to Matt about that.
Yes.
All right, let's get into it. So we had a comment that I kind of thought would spark some good discussion. It was on a video we did about jerk stripping and jig stripping up between the lakes. And if you guys don't know the Between the Lakes section, if you haven't come out to visit us, you should. It's a great place to fish. It's not a secret. It's very far from it. There's a lot of times where there's a lot of cars in the lot and it's hard to find a place to park. Well, you know.
That's where Jacquelyn got his giant fish. A lot of people commented about Bob's giant fish over there in the picture.
Yeah, we'll throw.
I would love that.
We'll throw a picture of that in. For those of you who want to go fish there, I fished there
The fish is gone.
probably hundreds of days. It's not there.
I fished it thousands before and after, and there are fish that size in there. They're migratory.
I don't believe it.
They come and go.
I've never seen one, but
That is, by the way, for those of you hunting the 30, that's Bob's. That's an exactly 30-inch fish, right? And it's an exact. And Bob was filming. And by the way, he's killed 2 fish in his life, and he got all this shit about killing the damn thing. It was a post-spawn brown. I mean, that thing was just—it's a lake fish too, for sure. But he got all this shit. It was so crazy. I mean, the guy started. He and Lee Wolf. Lee Wolf basically hired Bob, not hired, but just got Bob on board with the whole catch and release thing. They were doing it years before any of us, hell, before most of you were alive, I would assume. I was a kid. And he recruits the guy, and he took all this crap for killing that fish. It's like one fish, in history. And it was never, that catch and release was never just total catch and release. It was limit your kill, don't kill your limit, right? But no one on this planet is a better caster or angler than Bob Jacquelyn. I don't give a shit what, he doesn't portray himself as this bigger than life person. He's just this guy that just, always quiet guy, most generous guy, always doing classes for kids, and he's done that forever. There's a casting pond up in West Yellowstone named after him. But you want to talk about a guy who fishes unbelievably well, one of the best tires I've ever seen. I mean, unbelievable tire. And has fished just thousands and thousands and thousands of hours in the greatest fishery in the United States, the Yellowstone ecosystem, right? And that one. And he got it on nymph. He was actually doing a nymphing video on how to cast. Really wasn't not there how to fish. He's showing you how to set casts up, and he gets his white whale. I mean, like, of all the people on earth that should have a list this long of 30s, it's Bob Jacquelyn. Right? Because he was here back before all of us. He came out in the 50s, I think, and he's had a fly shop there forever. But that's a great example of the 30.
Yeah, just how hard it is to catch. And for all the people that got mad at him for killing that fish,
kiss my ass.
You weren't going to catch that fish.
Well, then you weren't going to, I mean, it's just one fish. Whatever. Let's not go down that rat hole.
Yeah. Okay,
back to the jerking.
Yes, so back to that. We filmed a video up there, and there was a comment about it because once we're about 3/4 of the way down the pool, I'm below you looking upstream. You can see somebody jump in kind of at what we call the top of the run. Yeah. And somebody commented, and they asked the question, they said, did that person high hole you?
Yes, he did.
What are the, what's the etiquette on fishing rivers there? Because, this person said in some places that's too close. Some places it might not be. So what's your kind of stance on river etiquette?
Whoever said that, where he's from or she's from, there's some part of that too. Because it's indicative of the amount of pressure. When you asked me that earlier, in the Montana regs, it says do not encroach on another angler's space. And this has been in here since the day I moved here. And I remember we have had an exponential growth in 25 years since I've been here. But I remember reading it in this thing then thinking, whoa, good luck, but it says, use the visual rule of crowding and attempt to keep out of sight of other anglers. Good luck. Ever fished the Pere Marquette? Good luck. There's just areas where that's just a physical impossibility. If you beat your butt up into the mountains, you could still see another angler. I mean, we're all out here doing the same thing. But I like to do, that guy high-holed me pretty hard, but it's pretty busy up there. I personally, the first thing I do is look which way a person's fishing. If the person's going up, you just do not have the right to go above them. If they're going down, you don't low hold. High hold, low hold. If you go below somebody, you low hold them. But I don't have a problem with walking over and see people that are swing guys that are taking, steelhead world. You got this cat that's kind of statue out in the run, and he's taking 20 casts per step. Bad etiquette, right? You do 3, kind of was always my 3, 5's pushing it.
4's the right number.
Yeah, it just depends on the water, and then you step it down. And that way you get your shot and you don't stand it. But this isn't swing, and this is trout world. But I just say, if you see somebody going downstream and you want to go down there, you really shouldn't go. But I go talk to people. And, I'll just say, hey, man, do you care if I go 100 yards below you? And usually they say, no, well, I said, well, I'll go up above if I get the opportunity. But we were filming for, what was that kid's name? Really cool guy. We were filming up there one day, and there was just people everywhere. And I went up, and they're obviously coming downstream.
Was that Fly Lords?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was that kid's name?
I didn't meet him. I wasn't up there that day.
He was pro jock, too. Got to think of this guy. We'll find it. But anyway, I'm walking upstream fishing streamers, and we're really just up there throwing a line for pictures. But it's a particularly great fishing day. I mean, like, in the 30 minutes we were there, we cracked 2 big ones. One was 2-footer. And both fish came, the first one, the guy walked out, he high holes me and goes right across the island. But it's busy, people just, and he, I think, well, we're moving up, but he's going to the island and I'm not. And I actually asked him, do you mind if I fish above you? No. And 2 casts later, popped a big one, like a 23. And then we walked upstream, and there's people coming down. And they were sitting there on the end of the island. And I said, obviously they'd fished through the run. Now there's also proper etiquette for the person being asked. In particular, if you fish in the steelhead world, you will get explained to. There is no problem. But you ask, is it okay if I go here? And proper decorum is to say, yes, you can, because you fished it.
Right.
You don't go, well, I'm going back to the top. That's not how it works, right? You don't get all the marbles in the jar. And so I did that to Harry Lemire once. For those of you know anything about steelhead fishermen, one of the great, it's like talking about John Wayne, right? This incredible tire. Just everything about Harry was great, right? He used to come here too, a few years. But at any rate, he's coming down, and he's one of the true pioneers of spey in the West Coast. And he's coming down this river. We're on the Kispiox. And he gets to this run, and I walk down, and he's already there. And he's fishing away, right? And I'm thinking to myself, this would be like seeing John Wayne riding his horse. He's just training his horse. And you've got an opportunity to watch. So, it's like you've got an opportunity to watch, right? And so it's a long run. It's 100 yards long, easily. And he started at the top of the head of the pool, and he's coming down. He's just getting into the sweet spot. And I sat there for probably not a long time, 10 minutes. And I'm kind of hunkered in just watching things, because he's kind of one of the original spey. But it's after October. He had some date. Kind of like the rules thing we were talking about.
Yeah.
Harry had this thing about he would not run a spey rod after October 15th or something like that. I don't remember what it was. And he but he's single hand spaying, and he's incredible at it, right? And so I'm watching Harry, and finally he's 100 yards, and I want to fish too, obviously, and he sees me. So I stand up and I walk over and I says, Harry, is it all right if I go to the head of the pool? And he always called me young man. I was like 40, I think. And he goes, well, young man, you can start right here. And I'm thinking, oh, shit. I just pissed off Harry Lemire, you moron. And we're in the same camp, right? It's Jerry and Mike, Craig and I, and Harry and a couple other guys up there. And I said, Harry, I didn't mean to piss you off. I says, I can go somewhere else. And he goes, gives me this look like I'm the dumbest thing ever. And I go, and he says, you didn't piss me off, young man. He says, I have rose, hooked, and landed 3 fish this morning. Then he gives me this look in the eye and he goes, that should be enough for anyone, don't you think? And he gives you the lean in. What the hell are you supposed to do? It's like Job talking to you. Shit, yep. And then I went to the top and got to the sweet spot and didn't get a fish. And then I got right where he was and got a fish below him. But he didn't fish it out. He just said, he was getting out anyway. But it was proper. So you go and you ask, right? And then on this river, boy, 100 yards is a long ways. And that's a ton of fish. If you're worth, that's a ton of fish left for someone. And so I kind of just take, and then if I got more and there's nobody below, I might just take a hoof, right? And just go and do it. But proper etiquette, you get shit. Some of the eastern steelhead rivers I've fished, it's just, I just don't like it. I didn't even go back much. I used to fish the Cattaraugus quite a bit before it was crazy, and we used to fish the salmon. Hell, we fished that one year. Never saw a person for 4 days. I went back 10 years later. I never got 30 feet from somebody. It was nuts. There's just too many rats in the cage, and so you just got to play nice. You just got to do what you can do. The more you can talk to people, if it's just that arrogance of just walk through and not even acknowledge somebody else. Just don't. It's just very simple. Just say, do you mind if I go above? And if they say yes, then you got an issue, because if they're going downstream. If they're heading up, you don't get to ask, do you mind if I go above you? You do not get to low hole. If a person's going in a direction, you go below them and fish behind them. Right. Or you go a half mile up and start or do something that's proper. And you can kind of gauge a person's speed. If they're sitting on a run and they've been there for 10 minutes and have no intentions on leaving, well, you got to be moving. Right. That's the thing. You have to be moving. And when we're streamer fishing, we're moving
really fast.
Really fast, right? And so we're going to cover that water. And then there's a million things that go into it. Are you both fishing the same style? Right. Are you nymphing runs and I'm fishing a streamer? Am I dry fly fishing and you're nymphing them? I'm not going to go behind somebody nymphing anyway. I'm going to get away from them because I'm going to be fishing dries. And so there's a lot of things to take into it. But a basic rule is it's really simple. If someone's going up, you don't go above them. Yeah. If they're going down, you don't go. If you're going to go, if you're saying, okay, well, I'm going down, because give them a long distance. What that is on this river, I think 100 yards, if somebody's going down and you went 100 yards below them, because most people are nymph fishing here or dry fly. And the streamer guys don't really give a shit what you do, because they're usually hunting fish you're not anyway. So I don't know. For me, but I try, when I was in Michigan, when I had the Troutsman there forever, and my guides could tell you this, that worked for me. We had a rule on their boats where the same thing with a boat. You don't get to, and this river in particular, people will run your ass over. But in your boat, it's the same thing. You see an angler, if they're casting out here and you want to go here out in front of them, go as far as you can, because they're fishing a dry fly probably. Don't run them over. But we always had a rule back home that because I thought it was important as a shop owner, we would back off behind you and we would stop and we would say, do you mind if I row behind you? Never would throw in front of them, never. And a lot of times the river's pretty small and guys would be looking at it going, well, I don't know, man, you don't have much space. Well, I don't want to wreck your fish. So we would ask, always would ask, do you got a fish up? Yeah, drop your freaking anchor.
Yeah.
Sit there and you just give them, 10 minutes or whatever to do if you could. But it's always about just, and then we would always ask them how they're doing. Because I always felt like, you think I talk too much in these videos, you should have me stop you on the river and go, yeah, you catch them? No, why not? Right. Well, here, try some of these flies. And we had hundreds of people come into our store, and not just me, and all my guides did it, and they were instructed to. Man, be an asshole on the river once, and you're down the road with us. It's like you're out. And it made such a difference in our people coming to see us, into our store. But the same thing happens here. If you're polite, people will be polite back. And so we just kind of try to engage in a short conversation and say, how you doing? And in particular, it's amazing what'll happen if you say, I'm killing it. And really, I'm getting my ass kicked. Can you give somebody a fly?
It's awesome.
You're a friend for life.
It's the best.
You don't find your tires slit up at the
Yeah.
it's a better deal.
Well, I think something you hit on that's really important is try to deduce what the person's doing. Yeah. I remember I was walking up from Reynolds back up here with Matt one evening. We're fishing streamers. It takes us 2 hours. If you're nymphing, it takes you 9 hours, right?
Yeah.
Or more.
Okay.
And this guy came up behind us. He's like, hey, do you guys mind if I just jump in? I'll go in like 100 yards above you. I'm just fishing streamers, so I'm moving fast. Mm-hmm. I'm like, dude, we're fishing streamers. We're moving really fast. Yeah. We're going back up there. Like, sorry.
You go below.
I tried to say it as kind as possible. Like, no, like you gotta.
That's somewhat of it's either arrogant or ignorant. It's one of the two.
I think he was ignorant because I kind of know the guy, and he was a nice dude. Like right. I'd seen him in the shop a lot, and he didn't recognize us at first. And once he did, he kind of was like,
well, maybe he recognized your ability and knew he should go above you.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
Or lack of ability. No.
Lack of ability. But I think the other important thing is if you see somebody that looks like they're stalking a fish, they're down on their knees, they're looking at
you have
fish.
no right. If you see a stalker, someone stalking, you have no right to go talk to that person.
Turn around and walk away.
You know that's like, in certain rivers, that could get your ass kicked pretty easy.
Well, I remember being on there's a little spring creek that I'd been stalking this fish for an hour and a half. I had my buddy on the other side. He's crouched down behind a bush. I'm yelling out the fish's cycle for him so he can try to time it. And we've made one cast in this amount of time. And this creek's next to a road. And this guide pulls up towing a boat and stops, and he's got clients in the car, and he goes, oh, look, they're stalking a big fish. And I was frustrated at this point. I go, don't stop, keep moving. And he goes, oh, fuck you. And we kind of got into a little verbal argument, but him stopping the truck, that fish turned off, swam right back down.
Oh, I remember that when you said that.
And it frustrated me, but it's like if you...
Did we not do a video on that one day? I think we did about, something about the people coming up doing that, being just
I can't remember,
being a spectator.
If you see somebody stalking a fish, they're likely going to be there for a while. Right. Don't even
It's
mess
pretty
with them.
obvious if they're crouched down and they're and you can be 50 yards away and say, hey man, do you mind if because in some rivers, Spring Creeks in particular, that walking up,
that puts them
fish
down.
is like, hey, imagine being on Armstrong Spring Creek and you think fish don't know what every step means? They mean somebody's here to play with them, right? And so, but that's just common sense. Like I was talking about that book about Dame's book about last one, about the horsehair tippet, but bringing up the fact that there's always been assholes and there's always been good people. And so, but just a little conversation. It doesn't have to be long. If you see somebody, they're down obviously fishing a dry run. Dry runs are Dry runs are different than all the other fishing because generally speaking, you stalked in on something and you're there. And you're kind of there. I still, if that person, but if you don't know which way they're going. And if I pull up and they're there, I'll ask them, as far away as I can, do you mind if I go above you? Well, I was going to work that next pool. How long before you're going to work it? You don't get to take them all, right? You're on a fish. You're kind of on your fish, right?
You can't have your cake and eat it.
Yeah, you don't get to have all the pools above you. Well, I'll work up 100 yards or so, but usually, I don't know, there is no set. I mean, the Pure Marquette, the Boardman, where I grew up, the Boardman, the Manistee, the Pure Marquette, you go 100 yards up above, you could miss 5 runs, right? And here, every 10 feet, there's fish. I mean, if you study your water, maybe 30 feet, but you're not. So you just got to give yourself an idea. It's like, you'd like to say, well, what would I want someone to do?
Yeah.
Well, what would I want you to do? Would I want you to go 30, 40, 50 feet? I can't tell you how many times I walk up and say, do you mind if I go above you? And they say, no, you can start right here, or I'm leaving. But there's a lot of other answers besides yes and no. And it's like, hey, are you, then you do the whole, are you kicking butt? The little camaraderie back and forth, the next thing you know, he says, oh shit, here's this fly, I'm doing this, and everybody's happy. Or you just blatantly charge your ass through the run and expect not to get jacked in the mouth because you're just an asshole. You fish out east, I don't see it here as much, but you fish back the Pure Marquette, places like that, you just do one of those and you're going to get spoke to, and it's going to be really close. And that's uncomfortable for some people.
It's uncomfortable for a lot of people, especially out west. They don't really understand the East Coast dynamic.
It's Michigan was just, it was the same way. But it was, we always called it combat fishing because it was such not always like that, but in particular salmon runs. Oh, it brings out a whole class of morons. And so that was probably when most of the shit goes down, but people would walk 30 feet, not even. They'd run in. I've had guys come in on the same run with me and start fishing the same run it's like, well, you could go 30 feet below us, right? So a million semi-rules that aren't real rules. Just ask yourself, would I like that? Would I like someone to do that to me? Well, hell no. But
it's the golden rule, right? Treat others how you want to be treated.
You ever seen the movie The Beekeeper? I love it. Kills all kinds of guys. He's the guy that was in Expendable. I can't remember his name, Chris something. He's Christmas in Expendable. I just, when I was flying back from Charlie's event, I was watching on the plane, and there's this guy who's, they're just this guy what they do is it's a whole bunch of people in a room, and they'll call old people and they try to scam them out of their life savings.
Good people.
And their whole thing about this guy, they make him out to be such an asshole. The guy that's, watch this, she's gonna hit the go button. Bam, I got her for $2 million. And I swear to you, I'm on the plane and I go, high holers. I was like, oh my God. Mel's like, what? I go, nothing.
The scum of the earth.
The scum, yeah, the scum. They just, whoa.
And once again.
And not everybody is a scumbag because they, a lot of times when you say, hey man, that's a little close, don't you think? What? And they're totally ignorant to it. And
right.
You have a polite conversation. Be calm. Be calm with people. Don't start it off, hey, you stupid son of a bitch. That's only during salmon season. Then it's fine.
Right.
And then throw good laughs. And so, but it was like, lots of times people, or another one is they'll see you catch a fish. Well, they want to come over because, well, that's where all the fish are. Well, there's one less here then. Now there's, no, they're not here. But sometimes you just have to have that conversation where you say, that's not really good.
Yeah, and
fishing
I think
etiquette.
It's similar to what we were talking about in the last episode with, people dropping fish in the water or not doing good fish handling. Some people just don't know better.
Yeah.
So you can explain things to them without being an asshole, right? Like I've had to do that a few times where somebody low holes me and I go, hey, excuse me, I'm heading this direction. You know, common courtesy is come say hi to me. You know, ask me where I'm going, and we're both anglers, right? Like we should work on this together, and
You would think.
everybody should be able to have fun.
I had a guy stay here once, and one of the guides yelled at him and came in. Wasn't even one of my guides, Henry's Fort guys that are like my guys are all buddies, but he came in. He goes, man, he was Darby. He goes, dude, I just yelled at one of your customers. I feel terrible. I go, what the hell are you talking about? He goes, he caught this really nice brown. He's an older guy, and he wanted his wife to take a picture. So he's down in the channels, and he caught it in his net, and went up to the room and took a picture, brought it back. And
Can't fix stupid.
he was old, man. He was really old, and it took him a while to get there and back. And I can only imagine how long it took with his wife. But the fish lived. At least it
A
was.
little while.
It was there. It was still swimming right in front of me. And I go down there and I asked him, and he says, and this guy's like late 80s. I'm not even sure how he got down that bank. And so it was like, at this point, is there any real? And I just said to the guy, I said, we try not to take the fish out of the water for that long. He goes, that's the biggest fish I ever got, and I just wanted to have a picture of it. I let it go. Man, his heart was in the right place. I was like, good job. Good job.
yeah.
What do you say?
I don't know.
You can only be so far.
Some people have earned their flowers.
It's not salmon season.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. All right. Well, if you guys have any questions, comments on low holing,
that would be really cool if people would write in on that.
Yeah. Because I'm curious. I mean, we obviously, I've learned a lot from you, so we've got similar opinions on it. If you think we're assholes, let us know.
I don't know how if you write in, make mention where you fish.
Yeah.
Because if you fish, certain areas, it'd be interesting.
That's another thing I wanted to talk about. I love when people leave their secret spots in the comments because it means I can go fish there. If it's something that you're protective of, don't put it in a YouTube comment. I mean,
No.
it's very obvious when you watch videos if people are trying to protect the spot or not. The Madison's not a secret.
No.
There are a lot of secrets. Don't put it on YouTube unless you want to see a billion people there.
Yeah.
So
We intentionally, we shot 2 shows, I think, where we went and we filmed, and we have a pretty incredible day, and aborted the whole thing afterwards because we didn't want to give it up. And
it's not even necessarily a secret
it's
anymore.
not a secret, nothing, but yeah, just it's kind of hard, and it's really, you want to talk bad etiquette, asking someone where they caught their fish is bad etiquette.
Yeah.
If they give it up for you, but if you ask them, that's bad. And if you hunt posts, we used to do this. Chris told me that people could find it by my picture. I said, what are you talking about? He said, oh yeah, what is that, geo something?
Yeah, geotagging.
Yeah, he says, we want to know where, I found out where you were. He says, and so did one of my reps did that. I had a big fish, and he told me exactly where I was at. And that's really cheesy, man. Just go find your own shit.
I'm trying to find this comment. One guy, I think he was a younger kid, messaged me on Instagram when I posted a picture of a fish. And, oh gosh, I'm not sure if I'll be able to find it. But he said, he asked me where it was. Oh, here we go. He goes, hey, I have a question. Where was that fish you posted? Was that in the Madison? It was in the Madison. But I'd had a couple beers. And at 11 p.m., I send him a video. See if I can kind of get this in front of the camera.
Over there, that pink man, I found a couple of soft on the arrowhead.
That's from Napoleon Dynamite. Over there. So then I reached back
I
out
hope
in
you
the
didn't
morning.
want this video going because I was picking my nose when you were doing that.
Oh, we'll edit that out. I'll blur it. But yeah, I did respond the next morning. I was like, hey, man, I had a couple beers last night. I apologize about that. Yes, it was in the Madison. But also, don't ask people where they caught their fish. It's just amateur hour. And I do want to clarify from the first podcast we did, I made a comment of, you're trying to find places that have giant fish. You can go in and talk to your local fly shop. Don't go in there and just ask them, where can I go catch giant fish?
Yeah.
You go in, you make a relationship with those people.
I think you said that on it.
I think
when you did it,
I think it was clarified. But
think
yeah,
you did.
don't just walk in and go, hey, where can I go catch a giant fish? Like, one, they'll lose respect for you. Two,
Probably they don't know.
they might not know. They don't want to tell you even if they do.
Well, the thing is, that was kind of like when you catch a fish and somebody comes into your run. That's a fish.
Right.
Well, you can say, well, Jacquelyn's. How come nobody's got another 30 out of Jacquelyn? They're not always in the same damn spot. You got to go find them. It's one of the variables, right? It's not like, I tell people all the time, go up between the lakes. It's got the highest concentration of 30s in this river, period, end of discussion. That still means that they're hen's teeth. There's still very few.
0.01%.
Yeah. And it's still.
Maybe less.
And when they're there, for me, I've always found it's groupings. If I get 126, 7, I'm going to get 2 or 3. And that, at least that day or two, and right in there. And, but to say nobody knows, it's like, yeah, there was a fish caught there once. I'll tell you one, on the Yellowstone, on the old bridge, just above it. There used to be a guy, I think he was the butcher in Livingston. Johnny was always talking about this guy. He got him the same place. He was fishing bait. And he probably fished that thing 200 days a year. And he'd get a fish now and then out of this run. It's a giant freaking river, right? And you're throwing a night crawler from the bank. And so I can't think of a play. I'd love somebody to write in on this. I mean, I've spent most of my adult life chasing giant fish. And, frankly, I'm not an anomaly there. And I think back to where the guys I fished with in Michigan, particularly Dave Roller, Walt Grau, guys like that were such great anglers and guide 250 days a year. I'll bet you that not one of them could say, go to this spot and you can find one. They'll all tell you the same thing. Yeah, I got one there. I've caught a fish there. I've caught a fish here. I've got one there. It doesn't mean they're there today. It doesn't mean they're going to be back there ever. And for those of you who have not listened to me about streamer fishing for big fish and all my diving and all that, one thing I say in those in the seminars and the videos, of all my diving, I never found a fish in the exact same spot twice. And theoretically, and it didn't happen very often that I got to do this, but when I dove, I'd dive a mile of river or so, whatever it is, half mile, 3 on a big day, just floating. Ideally, I got to go back the next day and do the exact same spot. The point of that is replicating behaviors and trying to find them. And what I say in all my seminars is I found them in the same neighborhood, not at the same mailbox. They were never, ever did I find the same fish in the same spot. On the Manistee River, I frequently found fish, and I found the same fish in a 50-yard zone, and it would be on the opposite side of the river the next day or 30 yards down. It was the same type of water, not the same mailbox. He didn't get his mail there. He didn't park his ass in it, right? So for me to say, go to this run, for another example of that during the Hex Hatch, and where we talked about that before, I'm guiding you, and we go out at night. Well, I take you to a run that I think has the best potential, and historically, I've caught fish there. But you catch a 28 one night, or 22 or 24, doesn't mean the next night you'll even see a fish in it.
Right.
a lot of those fish migrate to these zones to feed. All of them do. They all migrate at night. So it really doesn't do you any good to say, go to Jack. I mean, like you, between the four of you guys, how much between Jake, Chuck, Matt, and you, just this year, how many
We've probably got 300 angler days up there.
Just this year?
Yes.
And
that's not all in Jacquelyn's, between the lakes, but still.
A lot
It's not a long section, and a lot in Jacquelyn's. I think between the four of us, we have maybe one fish over 23.
So, yeah.
Maybe.
And then tomorrow, you can go up there tonight and get one
it can happen.
30 tonight. You just never know. So it doesn't really matter. But it is still bad etiquette to ask somebody. I figured that out, because I was a taxidermist all my life. And on the one or two occasions, and the one I can think of, it was a ghost image in the back of my flyer, the 3 flyers, and it's a ghost image of me on a pond. It's completely worthless now, but it's called Brundage Pond. I started fishing that when I was 9 years old with Tom Noms. We always fished bait in it. And I fished it probably 20, 30 nights a year all my life. And this guy brings a brown trout in, and he's killed it, and he's going to have it mounted. It's a nice fish. It's a 20, 21-inch fish. But the Brundage Pond fish had a particular look to them, probably because of the soil and everything underneath it, what's in the water. And I looked down at it knowing, and I never ask anyone, ever, don't ever. If I ask somebody, did you catch that fish? It happened to me one time where I said, where'd you get that fish? And I said, I fish here all the time, never seen anybody there. And the next time I go, he's there and I'm there. Man, what a dick I look like, right? So I didn't, he just told me to think. But so this fish comes in and I go, oh, it's like a Brundage fish. He goes, how the hell did you know that? I said, because I've been fishing it for 30 years. I said, I've never seen another angler up there. He goes, me either. And just as on cue, the second, not the first time I went, the next time I went, it's him and I. Now, for 30 freaking years, I never saw a human being on that pond. And, and I had another big brown, the one that I talk about that had 5 steelhead smolt in its stomach. And I saw the picture of him holding it, and I said, oh, cedar run. How'd you know that? I said, I just do. Because all I can see is water. I can't see anything. I can see the water. And he goes, wow. I said, yeah, I've been there since I was 8 years old again. And that way, then it's okay. But I never saw him on that run. But yeah, just don't ask. Just if somebody wants to give it up to you, they give it up to you anyway, right? And again, it's probably that fish is gone. Well, the 2 I'm talking about are on the wall, so they're gone.
Yeah, they're definitely gone.
Those 2 are long gone, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think to your point, like that fish might not be there. Yesterday I fished with a guy named Lucas, super fishy dude, in his masters here in Bozeman, and he was talking to me about a tagging study they did, where they tagged fish in the Missouri, and they moved up through trib into a spring creek. And that's 110 miles that fish moved. And it's brown trout, and people think, oh, brown trout, they're in their little house, that's where they are. Those fish will move not only within a river, but throughout systems. I mean, we see it with migratory fish, but even...
No, resident fish.
Yes,
resident.
I'm saying we do see it with migratory fish, obviously, but resident fish move that much.
The point, about them not having the same mailbox, there was, in my book, I write about how many one fish that was radiotelemetry that went in 3 different river systems in 6 weeks. That's, I forget how many miles, but it's a lot. And that's kind of a thing we always are talking about in the seminars and in the books about you just kick that thing down and you pull anything out?
I think we're good.
That's okay. But those fish move. That was kind of to my point. They're not in the same spot. Juvenile fish will tend to congregate in zones like that more often. But real fish, really, really big fish, And they move that, like I said, that one fish was it kind of the formula that I ended up with gathering data and all that was 1,000 meters a day is depending on food source, right, is how far a fish will move. And they generally move an hour before and after dark, and then they move in the morning, the same thing, pre and post dawn. And they go to the same kind of water. But if they go up into a creek, there's nothing that says, they don't have any regulations on them. They just go. They go to what water temperatures, whatever they like, and they just move up. So it really doesn't, I mean, think of how many times on this river we go down this son of a bitch. And we're down this thing just fishing every day. How many 12, 14 guides going down, hundreds from all over the place. Everybody's caught a fish here, but how come nobody goes back? Remember when Hunter got that giant? How come nobody caught some bitch again?
It's disappeared.
Here's the picture, you can see it. You might as well put a damn flag in the water and say, here, this is where the giant was, dumbass. Well, I didn't catch him. No shit. He's not here today. So
you know
it
how
doesn't
many
really...
times that show we shot with traditional flies, you're fishing a conehead woolly sculpin, tan, and you jumped that fish that...
Straighten my hook.
Declan's buddy caught a fish right in the same zone like 2 weeks later that they taped, I believe, at 24.5. And Nate and Andrew both said they thought they'd seen that fish within a 100-yard stretch. It's possible.
It's great 100 yards of water.
It's unbelievable.
And it's one of the best big fish zones in the water.
And right where you hooked it, I've thrown into that pool 40 times after that.
Yeah, for 25 years.
Never hooked a fish.
Yeah. And then by random, and like I said, it's a type of water though. That's what I was getting at. There's a type of water that holds big fish. And that is one of them, right? It's that, and it's a checkerboard. And it's a lot of other shit going on for it. But I have literally fished that 1,000 times. I mean, 25 years. It's just one of my favorite runs on the river. And we all run this upper river at night in the afternoon. I mean, for those who don't know it, the difference between a lot of shops and this shop is all my guys, even my guides, go back and fish afterwards. There's kind of a club thing here where all the shop employees and a couple, 2 or 3 of the guides, 6 o'clock, boom, into the river and hit it and run. Well, it's the closest landings and it's a good 2.5, 3 hour float.
Yep.
So think of how many times, again, like Jacquelyn's, all of you go in your little cluster of people in their boats and there's 3 or 4 boats going and everybody's having fun and fishing and everybody hits that run. That's not where Hunter got his giant, though. His is on the other side.
Right.
That's also where Skinny got the biggest fish he's ever hooked in his life. I'm not sure. We'll have to ask you. I don't think he landed it. He might have. No, he didn't. But that was a 30. He didn't land it. He had it right at his feet. And Skinny's as good as you get. And he's really good at looking at a fish, and he doesn't exaggerate it for you, right? And he thought that was a 30. I think that was a rainbow, though. And that fish was in a straight line. That fish wasn't 60 yards from where that fish, and it's holding water, right? And it's just this, and not only is it holding, it's minute holding water. It's a 10-foot run, just like where Skinny and Hunter. Tiny.
Yes.
And, who's to say if you're 10 feet off one way or the other, he's not there, or just doesn't feel like eating. Maybe it ate one of the neighbor's kids. Who knows?
And when you're in a boat, you get one shot.
Yeah.
That's not a place you're rowing upstream.
No.
Johnny might.
Yeah, well,
Mongo
eat.
So I think that kind of ties into something else I wanted to talk about that I was talking about yesterday. And I always found it very interesting when I started working for you. You said a difference between our fly shop and others. Our guides fish a lot. Well, I think
our guides have to fish.
They have to.
It's a rule.
Johnny yells at them if they don't.
Third year.
I think another difference are the fireable offenses that you lay out on day one of getting hired. And I want to briefly kind of go through those. More so, I think it might be interesting for our listeners because everybody's had a bad fly shop experience.
I have them constantly.
They happen all the time. I mean, I was talking with Lucas yesterday. There's a shop near where I live now that we both had the exact same experience. You walk in and you don't get talked to. So the first fireable offense, somebody walks in the door as an employee, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you acknowledge them. Yeah. It's just turning and saying hi. It's basic customer service, right?
Yeah, the 3 fireable offenses when I hire you, and everybody gets this conversation. And it's not ambiguous. It's not, nobody has to wonder. I mean, I may talk too much. When I have a talk with you, you know what I'm asking you, right? Like, don't kick my lights. And so, but the 3 fireable offenses, and it's how all businesses should be run this way. I don't know what's changed in the world, but I think it's malls had something to do with it. They don't give a shit who you are. But in small businesses in particular, my 3 fireable offenses have had this since forever. First thing is when somebody walks in the door, if you don't acknowledge them, you probably will be fired before they get out your door. I mean, and I like to cut that cord really quick. It's just like, if you're too dumb to know that I meant what I said, and I don't care if there's 30 people in the store and you've got 5 people you're working with and somebody walks through the door, all you have to do is go, hey, they can see you got 5 people around you.
Hey, welcome in.
But you walk into, I've had it happen, walk in 3 guys behind a counter and stare at me like they want to fight. Well, we can do that too. I don't know, but that's fun. We can do that. Well, get a ring? Well, whatever. But it's like, and not say hello, all you have to do is be acknowledged. The first year or second year we were here, Andy Sabota and I had it happen 11 times, where 2 guys walk in the shop and we said, hey, how you doing? And they'd either look over at us like they wanted to fight. Like, what's up with that?
Why are you talking to me?
Why are you talking to me? Or several of them, Andy could probably tell you because he remembers everything. He can't stand that guy. He's got this steel trap brain. And he says, they would go, well, that's different. And I go, what's that? We've been acknowledged in a fly shop. And I actually wrote that in my business plan, and my banker, Mary Oliver, asked me if she called me. She wanted to use my business plan to give to somebody in town. And I said, yeah, I don't care. It's a very rudimentary business plan. And she says, I've always been curious. At the end of your reasons you will succeed, you said, I'll actually acknowledge people when they walk into my store. And she says, what the hell does that mean? I said, well, have you ever walked into one, Mary? She goes, I have. And I am a woman. You should try being a woman and walk into one. And I own half of those stores. But it was just hilarious. So that's the first one because, I mean, it's kind of like the river. People are going to high hole you, low hole you. Have a conversation. You probably can diffuse that thing really quick. And the second fireable offense is asking if you can be helped. I just hate that. That's an easy out. Can I help you? No. Okay. Back to doing nothing. Let me just go over here and pick my butt. So you say, I don't care what you say. Did you get off on that goat charge? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I didn't get I said,
twice.
Just helping them. And so it doesn't matter. Make a conversation. You're supposed to make relationships in business. And like I told all of you, every one of you, and even Bramer, I fired Bramer his first day. I fired Bramer for nobody vacuums my store. I vacuum my store. That's where I sit and think about what I'm going to yell at you for. All day I sit there pushing that thing back 10, 15 minutes, going back and forth. Bramer had my vacuum. Fired that right on the spot. Out the door he goes. Who do you think you are, you piece of shit? Get out of my store. And then Johnny caught it. Johnny's walking up the deck out here. And here comes Bramer with his head down. Oh my God, day one. He goes, did you get fired? He goes, yeah. He goes, come back at 10, I'll hire you back. And the third one is never, I don't like more than one person behind a counter. whenever there's 3 people behind a counter, you got a clan, right? And somebody walks in, and like I told Chris and all of you, that's a party you're not invited to. When there's 3 people, and especially if 3 people are talking and someone walks in, you better drop that shit right now, and everybody scoots, right? And so that's just common courtesy. You know, you walk in, and imagine if you're a gal, because I hear it from gals all the time. You know, gals are, for whatever reason, not all of them, but some of them, you know, it's intimidating. Walking into a bunch of guys hanging out in here. I mean, if there's 40 people in the shop, there might be 3 women, right? And then 3 guys are sitting behind the counter having a chit chat, and a gal walks in. If she doesn't get immediately addressed, or if they all look at them, you know, you walk in and there's 3 guys talking, and they look at you like you just interrupted. That's why you don't start. You just don't do it. You don't have them behind the counter. I'm not paying you to sit your ass back there anyway. And the 4th thing, I did. That's why I fired you. And so the 4th one though is, and we started this 2 years ago. When somebody leaves the store, I want everyone to say goodbye to them.
Hey, have fun out there.
Yeah, anything you can say. It is so fun because a lot of times it's like 3 or 4 of us will go, thanks, all at once. And they're like, and I tell people it's like Cheers. I love when Normie walks into the bar, right? And so once people get used to being here and they walk in, we're like, hey, you know? Hey. And it's like, hey, Normie. And then when you leave and you do it, it's about friendships. I mean, you build customers one at a time. You know, I mean, we've got thousands, tens of thousands of people that watch this stuff, right? I hope they feel like they're part of the action, right? It's like, this is us. I'm not preaching, like that one dumbass said, you know, me preaching to my minion. What a dipshit. I'm not preaching to anybody, you asshole. I'm just saying, we're just kind of having fun, right? Make it fun.
Somebody left a comment on the last one. I really should find these people so I can shout them out. But he's like, you know, he's referencing, we were talking about the assholes that comment every once in a while. And he goes, if you think Kelly's an egomaniac and asshole, go into his store. He's in there every day talking to people, sharing advice, everything. And it's true. Like, your job, we actually...
That's all I get to do. Nobody lets me do anything.
We hate when you run the register because you always screw it up. But you sit over here, hold court, you show people flies, give them stuff, whatever, advice.
We have fun.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's what I don't know. When you start a business, I don't know what's in your mind. I started, when I was a kid, fly shops were either in a barber shop or a pharmacy. It was really strange. They weren't, I mean, at least in Michigan. Well, there weren't many fly shops in the old days. There were bait shops that might have a fly department. But a couple things about the barber shops were a place where you hung out, right? And they would sell flies, or maybe a reel or this or that. And then, when I started my business, I started my first business, it was out of my house. I wanted you to feel welcome, obviously, because I'm not going to walk in, some guy's hungover, got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. What the fuck do you want? You know, I'm busy. I got to watch, you know, Judge Wapner. And, you know, you walk in and you would hope, seeing how it's kind of like that river thing, you would think we're all doing the same thing. We all go to the same TU club or FFF club, and we all hang out there, right? You would think you were trying to make one giant, everybody's doing the same thing, teach. I mean, I can only imagine if I was an asshole to Dave Ellis the first time I met him. I've talked about Dave 1,000 times. Greatest angler, greatest human being, just everything, you know, just one of those cats, right? What if you were a dick to that guy and I didn't get to garner all the knowledge he had in fly tying? I mean, he's 20 years older than me, and he was one of the best then, now, without doubt. But what would happen? What if it's just that one guy, that gal, whoever, that just showed up and you were too busy being an ass? I mean, I just don't get it. It's business. You can do that in Walmart. Nobody knows you. That's the problem. Right. You can go in Walmart. Nobody gives a shit who you are. You can go into a mall. I walk in those malls, it's like Night of the Living freaking Dead. People just, a bunch of mouth
It's just zombies, mouth breathers.
mouth breathers walking down the hall, sucking up oxygen I could have. It's like, give me that back. And then you walk in the stores, it's just, you can always tell somebody that's new. Hi.
Yeah.
Oh, first day?
Yeah, they don't have the life beat out of them.
Yeah, but, what's your best deal on this? Yeah.
So I think I don't know if you want to share the story real quick. You can redact the names from it, but I believe you went
They're all buried.
down south into a buddy's fly shop, and you guys were filming down there or something.
Yeah.
You want to share that one?
Yeah, well, it's basically the same thing. That's where the whole 3 guys behind the counter came from. 3 guys are behind the counter, and I walked in, and it's a really good friend of mine's shop, and if he was in that shop, that shit wouldn't have happened. And that's what I always feel like. I want to know, and I send people into the shop too. I tell buddies, go in there and see how my people treat
Oh, they're
you."
spies.
All the time.
Yeah, but we suss them out. We know.
Well, they've all come back and tell. This year in particular, I don't even want to venture a guess how many. It was close in 100, I'll bet you. People who pulled me out on the porch or just came or called me. So I just got to tell you, you guys treated us like gold. It's great. And that guys I sent in. Just when somebody goes out of the way to call you or pull you out on the porch or something like that, it means something. But at any rate, in the shop I was in.
Well, it was an awesome crew this year because I wasn't working in the shop.
That helped
That's
a lot.
why it was great.
It was a lot better. But I walked into the store, and 3 guys were behind the counter. They were all young. And it's hard to tell the story without putting the other piece of that post. But at any rate, they just looked at me. They were having a conversation, just stared at me. The shop is pretty small. And I just started walking down the wall, looking at stuff, waiting for my buddy that owns the place to come out because we're supposed to have lunch at 1. And we're going to film that night. And I said, and then I don't know, I was in there a couple minutes, and he walks out, and everybody's still behind the counter. And he said, "Are my guys taking care of you?" I thought about it short and long because I'm thinking, I would want to know. I said, "Well, I don't think they know I'm in here." And his head turns and looks at this guy, and he is a assertive human being. And he says, "I'll meet you in the car in 5 minutes." And then later, one of them had to guide me, and they're related. And so he had to come up, and it was like serious apology tour, right? And I said, "Dude, you're going to own that place someday. You might want to consider what's happening around you." But yeah, it's just common courtesy. It
is.
My grandfather had a restaurant in this shitty little town called Chase. They had 100 people in it. And he made a great living there his whole life. And it was called the Friendly Cafe. And I went to it's part of my obsession with organizing things. And I went to his funeral. It was hilarious because it was
Sorry.
it was absolutely a
that's
party
expected.
breaks out. I mean, he's older than shit, right? And that's all his brothers. They all lived to be like 1,000. And the preacher's up there, and he's like pounding on the podium. And he says, "In 45 years of preaching, I ain't never had to calm down a funeral." And I remember my uncle came in with his wife, and I didn't know it was his wife. I thought it was a caregiver. I said to my dad, "Who's that chick?" He goes, "It's his wife, you ass." I go, "Well, he's pretty old." But the preacher got up and he said, and I wish I'd have took it to heart younger, but he said, didn't know Johnny Gallup very well. He says, "The 2 things I know about Johnny Gallup is he had the straightest woodpile in all Lake County, and no one's ever known him to have an enemy." Has this little tiny restaurant. You walk in, everybody's bud or sis. Couldn't remember anybody's name. Didn't try to, I suppose. But he always remembered what you drank. And he had a bar in his garage in the back. He'd go back in the wood. He'd go back through the restaurant, through their house, and into his garage and hang out and drink. And he'd know exactly what. I'd bring my girlfriends down to meet him. I'd say, "This is so-and-so." He'd go, "Oh, what do you drink, sis?" "Oh, I like this." "Oh, great." Come back a month later, the different one. About the 5th one, he says, you know, you're going to have to change something here because I'm not buying them all new drinks every time. I remember he said to, I think it was Kelly Hannum, she said, he says, I hope you drink rum and Coke or something because I ain't buying. That'll be fine. Hilarious.
All right, well, I think that's a great place to wrap
Digress.
up. Wrap up show. What do we say? 4? I think this is 4. So yeah, hope y'all enjoyed that. It's fun for us.
That was fun.
And come back next Tuesday, assuming I have my shit together and can get another one out on time.
You better. 5th fireable offense. Don't get your shit out on time.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Thanks. Hope you liked it.